So welcome to our presentation about the OpenStudyBuilder, leveraging the graph for clinical trials and standards. My name is Katja and I'm the OpenStudyBuilder Community Manager.
Hello everyone, and I'm Marius and I'm working as a principal consultant in the Neo4j services team. And I've been involved with the OpenStudyBuilder project as a consultant for a bit over 3 years now. So thank you for joining this event.
So let's start. What is the OpenStudyBuilder? What's exactly in there? So the OpenStudyBuilder is a tool which should support the clinical trials flow. It's an open source tool created and maintained by Novo Nordisk and made available for everybody to use, and we are looking for collaborators. So what is a complete clinical trial flow? Typically, we are starting with a clinical trial protocol. We have to define different activities. Then we define the data collection, which we do in a case report forms. We actually also set up the electronic data capture, which are EDC systems. And then comes the collection stuff. So we are performing the analysis planning. We specify which data sets we are expecting. So we have a set of standards, which are called SDTM standards. We specify them, how they should look like, and then we actually get them and program them. Then we're also programming and defining analysis data sets, which is a second set of standards we have in clinical trials. And when we have those data sets, we are creating these tables, listings, and figures, which we finally include in clinical study reports. So this is the complete clinical study flow where we need a lot of data repeatedly. For example, the activities, we will see these are collected in the clinical data collection, so in the EDC system, but these also needs to be stored in the data sets itself. So in SDTM, they need to be stored in ADAM, and they will be displayed and evaluated in the tables, figures, and listings. So there is a lot of information, a lot of items which are reused in many different areas. And next to the clinical data flow, there are also quite many related processes which also need the same data over and over, which could be, for example, risk assessment, monitoring tasks, clinical trial posting, data integrations, and much more. So in the past processes, we do have the clinical study protocol, which is typically created in Word. And then we're having different users in different functions, in different systems, using the information from the study protocol. But as it's a Word document, you always have different interpretations, which really could cause troubles. And it's also a manual task. What we would like to have, so the OpenStudyBuilder vision, is really to replace the core information, all main information which are needed by different systems in one metadata repository. So that this metadata repository is used as a heart, and then we can derive the protocol from and deliver different systems. Of course, this metadata needs also to be maintained and created. So here still human input is required, but we also are supporting standards. So it's a lot of things are driven by standards. We do have industry standards like CDISC, but also there could be compound standards, study standards. And also what's another important point is that we're not only having exports to systems, but if system information should be used also in a different place, there's also the route back. So systems can automatically also deploy information into the OpenStudyBuilder so that it can be grabbed by another system. The OpenStudyBuilder itself contains 3 core elements, which is the clinical metadata repository, additionally to the study definition repository. So we are not only storing metadata, but also study definitions. Which studies do we have? What activities do we collect for them? What are the objectives, the endpoints, and much more. Then we do have the application, which is the web interface. Here people are logging in, then they can see and browse the standards, they can define standards, and they can use standards. They can create studies, they can select which studies and activities they would like to have. They define objectives, endpoints, titles. All information can be entered in the application. The third component is the API layer. So this is the application programming interface, meaning whatever is available as data or as tasks which could be performed are also available through this layer. This means that other systems can just access the data or create data. It's all automated possibilities. We also have a high need for interactivity and interoperability. So a core component is the import of standards. We can import the CDISCs like CDASH, also biomedical concepts from the CDISC Cosmos initiatives. We can also import dictionaries like SNOMED, MEDRA, LOINC, UCAMP. But yet there can also be importers to import standard sponsor libraries. For example, if you already have a metadata repository, you can create a script to just import also all your metadata into the OpenStudyBuilder. And on this other side, we do have consumers. So the idea is that every system we are using, whether it's a protocol add-in, whether it's the clinicaltrials.gov, whether it's an EDC system, or also tools to create SDTMs or TLF builders, they all can grab information through this OpenStudyBuilder API. Another important point to mention here is that we are also a Transliterate digital data flow project, meaning when you have a system which is compatible with the Transliterate DDF standard, it will also be compatible with the OpenStudyBuilder. So the idea is really to have exchangeable systems. For example, if you want to switch for one study from one EDC system to another, that should ideally be working. By using the same APIs, that would be possible, and maintaining the standards in the OpenStudyBuilder. So as mentioned, the OpenStudyBuilder is an open source tool. It's developed and maintained by Novo Nordisk. It's highly linked to standards and initiatives like the CDISC standards. We are a member of the COSA, so the CDISC Open Source Alliance. OpenStudyBuilder is an implementation of the Transliterate Digital Data Flow project, and we are looking forward for collaborators.
Hey, so now I would like to cover this question you see on the screen and that we actually get quite often, and it's also probably the reason why you are sitting here today on this Graph Day Farmer Talk. So why is there a graph inside of the OpenStudyBuilder, and also where? Actually, as you saw in the previous slide from Katja, she used the word highly linked with standards. So that's already a hint for what's coming. So let's look at the data that we have inside of the metadata repository and the study definition repository. Let's start from a study. So that looks like a single object, but if you zoom in on exactly what you have inside of the study in terms of components, you will have many components. Let's take a first example, this one, the objective. So the study objective, as you know, will be measuring something about something. So you need to zoom in a bit more. So for example, the objective will have a category, which can be the safety or the efficacy of a given molecule over a certain disease, for example. And what I just said, molecule and disease, we actually treat them as parameters to the objective. So we use a lot of templates inside of the OpenStudyBuilder so that you can pick from a library of templates instead of always having to come up with your own content and wording. So parameter here, as I said, can be a compound, can be a disease, can be units, etc. So these parameters, they also have allowed values inside of the data repository. And these allowed values, they can come from standards like CDISC, or it can be sponsored data. So for example, compounds owned by your company, or it can be specific activities that you lead in the context of your inside of your medical therapeutic area. So, for example, measuring the level of glucose in the blood. So you see already we are heading toward something that looks a bit like a graph. And then we could zoom in more and more and more. And some objects are actually composed of literally dozens of elements. So if I look at this that we call the SOA, so the schedule of activities, which is really at the core of the OpenStudyBuilder. If you look quickly here, you can see that it's the composition of many elements. So you will have activities that happen in the context of a visit, in the context of an epoch. You can enable them, disable them, and each of those are actually made up of several objects themselves. So if you go on and on like that, you end up with the following, which is our data model for the whole OpenStudyBuilder. So as you can see, there are a lot of relationships everywhere. So if I rephrase that, congrats, it's a graph. So that's really the starting point for why do we even need a graph in the first place inside of the OpenStudyBuilder. And as you saw here in the schedule of activity, the fact that we have a graph as the underlying data structure inside of the tool, it doesn't prevent you from displaying data in this tabular format that we have been used to for many years, as also the data storage structure. But here we can really have a graph as the storage structure, but then displayed as a table. And now I would like to zoom in even further on why you need a graph, because everything we do inside of the OpenStudyBuilder is actually versioned. And on top of being versioned, you also need to preserve what we call an audit trail. So a history of exactly who did what, when, and why. So let's take this example. We have a root node, which is a term coming from CDISC. And then it has value. It has versions that can evolve over time, which is what we call the value objects. So in 2014, that disease was called simplex virus. But then in 2016, they decided that herpes simplex virus should be the right name. But then in 2023, they said, okay, no, it should be just simplex virus, but in 2 words. So you see it evolved over time. And the way we do the versioning is that this part on the left never changes. That's really something which is, if you change this, it's just a different object. But then if you change any of this, it's just different properties that evolve over time for this given object, but it's still the same object. So let's play a little game now. Which of the 3 versions earlier should you choose in the context of your study objective, for example? So you're working on a drug to heal this simplex virus. So let's say you start the study today, or for some reason you don't care about the dates and values. So you just pick the latest, which is today. But what if you actually created a clinical study in 2015? Then you were working with this value up here. But then you decide to update the clinical study to the current data available, and we are actually in 2018, for example. Then you need to switch from this value to this new value here. So you're writing the study objective. Which one should you pick? Well, it all depends on your context, and it's all enabled by the versioning system that we have in the OpenStudyBuilder. But then if you add that to what I was showing earlier, then we can say that it's actually graphs, plural, that you have. It's several graphs, all intermingled. And depending on the specific date that you choose, you will choose a subpart of your graph, which is the one available at that given date. And as I said, if you decide to change from one value to the other one, you need to explain who did that, when, and for what reason, for auditing purposes. So I hope this really shows the power of having a graph as a data structure in the context of the OpenStudyBuilder. And now I will pass it back to Katja to learn more about how you can move forward with the OpenStudyBuilder as a tool.
So if you're interested in utilizing the Neo4j graph in a real application, like in the OpenStudyBuilder, there are various resources where you can go to. We do have a very extensive project homepage with a lot of information, so it's openstudybuilder.com. For example, under info and resources, you have a very brief overview about the most important resources. We have linked videos, presentations, a poster, a flyer. We also have already created 2 papers. And on the homepage itself, you also will find a lot of information, like also our next events, various guides on different topics if you would like to get additional information. So please just check out our OpenStudyBuilder homepage. The demonstration video is a real good resource to just get a brief overview about the capabilities and what the OpenStudyBuilder is about. We also have a newsletter in LinkedIn. We do have regular releases. It's typically in about 2 to 3 months that we will always do a new OpenStudyBuilder release with new features and enhancements. You can also reach out to us via Slack and via email, and with some complete source code, including the instructions on how to install everything, is available in GitLab. What you will get with the OpenStudyBuilder is you can install it locally, even on your PC, whether it's Windows or Unix, a Linux machine. It even works on Macs, but you also can install it on a server. There's also a public sandbox environment available. You only have to send an email to Neo4j, and then you will get access to a public sandbox, which is just a playground area, so everybody can see, browse, and edit with the tool. And then there's also the option for a dedicated hosted environment. For example, you can ask Neo4j. The software itself consists of different elements. So you have the application, which is the web interface. The complete content is available in the graph database. And very important are these API endpoints. There is a Swagger online documentation live. So if you would like to browse and see what API endpoints are available, just use the Swagger documentation. In general, there's a lot of documentation. We do have our project homepage. The tool itself is also coming with a documentation portal, and there's a lot of documentation in GitLab available. Then we do have additional scripts available, for example, to load the latest CDIS standards into the OpenStudyBuilder. But there are also general tools like a database browser and also Neo4j dashboards where you can browse different contents.
Yes, and in case you're interested by the OpenStudyBuilder, but it lacks a few features that you need, or you want to explore more, or you want to customize anything inside of it, including the data, that's actually something where Neo4j can help you, especially the services part of Neo4j. So, for example, if you want to edit the library data that you have inside, let's say you have some custom data on top of the CDISC standard, then that's something you can customize. Or you have some other library data available, like the activities that you lead, or you use a different set of units that the OpenStudyBuilder uses. That's also customizable. Then we have also developed mappers. So, for example, Katja mentioned the DDF transliterate. So the OpenStudyBuilder can actually export a study in the USDM v3 format. But if you use a different study format, then it's also possible to develop custom mappers. And then you might also want to develop complete extensions to the OpenStudyBuilder because some functionality is missing. And then here I invite you to come talk to us, so Neo4j and also Katja. And that's something where Novo Nordisk is also open to talk about this, because it is an open source project. So thank you all for your attention. And here are our personal emails where you can reach out to us. And you can also write to OpenStudyBuilder@neo4j.com, and we will receive this email with questions or any requests. So thank you, and have a nice rest of the day.